don't know this young woman very well, but I've encountered many young women in similar situations. So, and I also know a lot about her community, which actually has the highest number of children living below the poverty line in Baltimore City. So I'm actually going to take a little creative license with Michelle's story for the purpose of making a point, if you will allow me. So let's say this beautiful young woman, oh, I've already named her Michelle. I've been calling her Michelle and I didn't tell you. I named her Michelle. I don't know what her real name was, but I started calling her Michelle in my head because she needed to have a name. So let's say her name is Michelle. And she gets thrown out of her classroom regularly for situations like this. And she's even gotten suspended a few times. And clearly there's a lot more to this story about being touched, but no one has ever explored it. Right? And let's go on to take a little bit more creative license with Michelle's story. Let's say her mom has been unemployed for a while and got picked up for possession of weed and now has an arrest record and is having a really hard time finding a job because there weren't that many jobs to begin with, and once you've been arrested, that number shrinks. And Michelle's mom's just really not getting out of bed that much. Because how many jobs can you apply for before you stop trying? And you know, there isn't that much transportation coming through the neighborhood going to where the jobs are, and it's just getting too hard. Messed up family, huh? What do you think? Maybe they do need a social worker to help them, but let's unpack this situation a little bit more. Let's say you're doing case management with this family. What do you see? What do you see here? Do you see the messed up family, or do you see a complex combination of circumstances where Michelle and her mom, different people in a different community with different privileges, would look completely different? Now, I'm not going to ask how many people in this room have ever smoked weed. Maybe I should. But you all know, right? But if Michelle and her mom weren't poor and black and living in a vulnerable community, the police probably wouldn't have paid any attention to them whatsoever. And some of these other issues or circumstances likely wouldn't even be at play, like the difficulty getting a job and the lack of transportation and the resulting giving up. You know, the Department of Justice recently issued a report, I'm sure you've all heard about this, citing the Baltimore City Police Department with unfair targeting of black residents in poor communities with illegal stop and search. Race matters. Place matters. So, how then will we, as a social work community, view Michelle and her mom? As though the main problems to be conquered are completely within their own control? Or can we acknowledge that there are systems at work that they did not create and that are bigger than them? Will we give voice to that which they already know? That there is something inherently unfair about the way in which they and people like them are treated in this society? Will we give voice to that? Will we validate their reality? Reinforce their sanity? Or will we stay silent and, in essence, maintain the status quo? Will we support the idea that it's all about them and their own doing, and that if they just exercise some personal responsibility, they can pull themselves out of the situation they're in? Or will we acknowledge the historical facts and current events that impact poor people and people of color? Two Harvard economists recently ranked 100 of the nation's largest cities on their ability for a poor child born in that city to move up the economic ladder. 100 cities. One being the greatest chance of moving up the economic ladder, 100 being the worst chance. Where do you think Baltimore ranked? 100. Whoever said that. Baltimore ranked 100 on that list. And this number is even worse for boys. For every year a boy grows up in Baltimore, his earning potential in later years falls by 1.5% over where it would have been had he grown up in another city. So that by the time he's 26 years old, I hit my point. By the time he's 26 years old, he's earning 28% less than he would have had he grown up somewhere else. Place matters. So why do I do this work? I do this work because I will not be silent. I will not be party to watching all the Michelles of this world and their mothers walk through life seeing a reality that no one will put voice to. That alone is traumatic. For all the schools where Michelles are being marched along the school to prison pipeline, I will be a part of creating solutions where for school climate and break that pipeline. In communities where community members don't have a voice about policing and infrastructure, I will work with communities to organize and become involved in advocacy and policy work. And while we're doing this work, this structural work, people still need housing and food and security and clinical services. They still need everything, but those things are only good for today. And if we only focus on what people need today, the people we work with will need us forever. What I'm interested in is helping people find and activate their own power so that we don't have to keep working with the same people generation after generation after generation. That's why I do this work. That's what keeps me coming back every day. So ask you, why will you do this work? Why are you here? I'm going to pause for just a moment and allow you to, I just want to invite you to connect with your breath and just ask yourself that question. Why am I here?